Mr. Devin Romanul, sorry.
Oh, it's quite all right. It's a tough name to pronounce. Well, at the risk of quoting Jane Austen, I'm 1,000 times yes on both of these questions. So, when you think about wealth building in this country, and in Melrose certainly, you create familial wealth primarily through homeownership. That's just really the main driver for a lot of Americans and a lot of folks in Melrose. So when you look at the Federal Reserve Bank of Boston's study of wealth in our community, they said the average white family has, this is a few years ago, so the numbers would probably be a little different now, but about $250,000 of aggregate wealth per white family, and $8 for on average for Black families. And so that's just an incredible policy failure. Since we're talking about housing in the context of racial justice, you can even go back and look at the 1938 map of Melrose to see where your home is in that historical red line. You may even have a restrictive covenant on your deed, even though it's not legally enforceable. But in any event, to get to the question at hand, I really highly recommend everyone working in local government to read Richard Rothstein's book, Color of Law. Really goes into the important history behind this. But yes to the passage of the Community Preservation Act. I think it's an enormously helpful tool if done appropriately, and folks have thrown out a lot of great ideas here. On the homeownership front, I think looking at first-time homebuyer programs, access to capital and funding, running perhaps maybe collaborating with local other communities on lending, education, and advocating for increased building permits, looking at a regional strategy and lobbying state government to advocate for credit scoring practices that are less discriminatory. So increasing diversity in the appraisal profession. I know those are a little less than what we're talking about today, but I think enormously important when thinking about home valuation and discrimination. On the rental front, I think looking at rental assistance programs, maybe there's opportunities for housing to be made available for educators or other city employees. And then just, looking writ large at zoning and where it's appropriate to apply inclusionary zoning practices, accessory dwelling units, so you can add on some units without much trouble, upzoning around transit, maybe stepping back a little bit and getting a little more macro and lobbying the state legislature to consider, stretch goals like baby bonds, which a lot of studies say that within 2 generations, you could narrow all racial wealth gaps and all wealth gaps, and just looking at some experimental policy. So I do a lot of work on eviction prevention, first-time home buyers programs, access to capital, home buying programs around the country, and really excited to work on both of these questions. And again, it's a yes for me.
Thank you.